Okay, thank you very much, Dina. Okay, hello everybody. I'd like to introduce you to Nilit's trend book for autumn-winter 2018-19. And we took the title of this as Game Changer. The reason being is that we're always looking for something new and we forget we've actually got some really great ingredients. And it was pretty much sort of like the 3R concept, and it was rethink, rework and revise ideas and create new generation fabrics for both sports and activewear and intimate apparel. So it was really sort of like we were trying to think about coming up with some new recipes and in creating innovative structures, clever use of yarns in contrasting ways. So before I show you the trends, I'll just run over the key aspects of Nilit yarns because these are highlighted throughout the trend collection. So they focus in the performance yarn sector. So we have Breeze, which is a cool touch yarn. Energy, which was the far infrared yarn, which is a, you know, sort of like this well-being aspect is quite key at the moment, especially in activewear. Then we go to Aquarius. We've got the moisture management in this, and then Heat, this thermal insulating yarn. So some of you will know these products, others, you know, it's a new aspect, but I'm just going to do it very quickly. And then on the performance side as well, we've got Nilit Body Fresh, so an antibacterial yarn. The fashion yarns, and these are interesting because you'll see through the trends, we're teaming these up with the performance yarns from Nilit, so we're getting a much stronger sense of fashion, especially in the active and sportswear sector. Black Diamond is you know, really sort of like, it's an interesting yarn, especially when you used with a contrasting tone. You can get some really innovative results. Brilliant is very bright, and then Britex as well, this sort of like high level shine and a bit of more glamorous edge. And then with Eversheer, very lightweight and sheer, and we're seeing that come through as also as sort of like hosiery inspired knits come through into the intimate apparel sector as well, in bras and panties and shaping too. And then color wise and pastel, these are interesting because from an ecological aspect as well, with the reduction in water use as well in the dyeing process, so you can still really create some interesting contrasting relief. And Softex for this a very natural feeling. What's interesting from consumers is they do like this natural touch, but they also like the benefits that come from the performance sector. So getting the combination is really important. And then duo mix again with this cotton-like look and touch. And we also moved to trio mix and creating unusual heather effects and more intense tones. And again with Dual, this ties in with this eco aspect because it's just a one-step dyeing process. So you can get some really interesting color contrast featuring here. And then with super microfiber, different lusters and a really sort of like sensual touch. Arafel, we've got this textured touch, and again the consumer likes that feel. Sort of like the association with nature. And then on the eco yarns, the recycled nylon 6/6 with eco care. And the final one from Nilit was the air textured technology yarn, and this is where we're getting much lighter yarns, but with a soft touch as well, but durable. What we've done is, in the trend book, is incorporate the Nilit range, but also they have licensed yarns, so we'll make reference to them too through the book. So I'll just move on to the first trend in the activewear sector, and this is called futuristic orb. And this is where we were looking at really compact and pure fabrics that embrace the body. We're going much lighter in weight, but we're also looking for more added detail. It's not enough anymore just to have a solid color. We're looking at color blocking, we're looking at jacquard effects. and different contrasts with tipping on garments. The color palette suggested here, it's quite a deep, rich palette. We've got obviously best-selling black featuring here, but we want to sort of like see new ways of how we can work with black in creating new collections. So for the inspiration, as I mentioned, the fabrics are very, very perfect. They've got high levels of performance. We've got energy featured in here. We've got Aquarius as well for the moisture management, energy for the FIR yarn. And but we were looking to sort of like update surfaces, and we wanted to see more textural effects. And these don't necessarily have to be physically textured. It can be an optical effect as well through contrasting yarn use here. So really perfect surface fabrics, but with optical detail featuring, and lusters, going from very sort of like matte through to brighter finish. And then Olga, who works on Nilit's collection, on designing the seamless collection, incorporated this information, and the collection really highlights where we've placed Nilit products. So you'll see through the garment design as well, we're looking again, I mean, this is just for seamless, and the trend information, which will be available for you at the end of the presentation, it's really sort of like to give a mood, to give a feel and an attitude, and it can be applicable in the cut and sew sector as well as the seamless sector. So, we're looking at circular knits, we're looking at weaves and different aspects. So here we have color-wise creating, sort of like innovative differentiation, and also incorporating Nilit heat for base layers and activewear. Going lighter but still having that thermal regulation is really important. So having that heat aspect coming through, really key in enabling the wearer to perform at a higher level without all the bulk and layers. The second direction was unique, and again geared towards the activewear market, but took on a more sort of like natural inspiration and also a luxury touch. We're really looking for this, so we've incorporated Nilit's super microfiber in this area, as well as combining it with the performance aspect of heat. So we've also, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing performance yarns and fashion yarns merge together. So we were looking at duo mix and trio mix again in creating something different on the surfaces. The color palette is quite natural in inspiration, and depending how you use it, and again, it can be worked in different ways, but I really saw quite relaxing and nourishing color palette featured there, and white becoming a little bit more strong in direction for the autumn-winter 18 season. So for inspiration, we were looking at sort of like taking up, we were looking to sort of like use natural fibers alongside Nilit as well. So we're seeing a big push in wool in particular in the activewear sector, through to even cashmere, silk and cellulosic. It's really this sort of like sensual luxury level touch and wearability, a comfort aspect, but at the same time a high level of performance. So again, Olga took our inspiration and developed this collection, and it's having that natural touch, not just natural inspiration, but natural touch with the performance. So if you've got the heat aspect in there, you've got the moisture management, really sort of like creating it's sort of like a dull aspect in a way, but high level function. So taking on organic looking jacquards, we placed energy in there, and for those of you who don't know energy, this far infrared yarn, basically when you wear it, the heat that comes from your body is reflected back, and it gives you sort of like an increased sense of well-being, and this is really important to the activewear sector. And we also worked this trend into a men's collection as well. And the actual samples that have been knitted up from this are really, really fabulous to touch, really natural to touch, but lightweight, and the high performance featuring there. We moved on to reactive and active wear. This is where we're seeing a really high level, high endurance activity in that, you know, this is sort of like pretty much for the hardcore who really go, you know, they're very much into running and working out, cross training. So this is sort of like high level performance, but there's an element of sort of like a rebellious spirit coming through here. It's quite a strong urban influence as well. And we're seeing this not just in sort of like traditional active wear, we're seeing it cross over into streetwear, urban sports aspects. So we can even sort of like apply this trend to the performance denim that's coming through as well in the hybrid blends. So it's very much sort of like reworking traditional sort of like tough, aged looking, dark toned fabrics, but really taking them to a new higher level with this sort of like built-in performance from Nilit. The color palette's grungy, and it's difficult just to show the Pantone colors. It just depends on the finish, but we're seeing sort of like aged finishes coming through as well as more contrast with more solid aspects. What's interesting is that this is sort of like the amount of people that sort of like feature in this serious aspect of the industry. This is a trend that's key, but also at the same time for the growing trend of well-being, it's something that can be sort of like taken on board and inspire collections that are geared to sort of like a lower level aspect as we see more people come on board. Not everybody is going to be sort of like top athlete when they take up exercise, so it can apply to different sectors in the market, from, you know, high level activity through to hiking, walking, those areas too. So our grungy aspects come through. We're really seeing sort of like quite matte fabrications. We're also seeing, you know, a big push in the legwear sector as well in this area, as we see more anatomical structures and mapping of zoning in key performance levels. So Olga took the inspiration from our initial attitude and created this collection, again just based on seamless, but just to give you an idea of, you know, how this could be developed further. We've got the energy in there as well, really pushing the, you know, the performance of the wearer. Every little bit helps. And we've also incorporated cordura as well to give that high tenacity and abrasion resistance. But again, very soft touch, but, you know, a good fit in these pieces. And on the women's side, we've got the Arafel teamed again with the tactile. So really playing with great ingredients that we already have. And for Spirited, on the activewear side, this was really to sort of like add a little bit of glam and also liveliness to fabrics and end garments. Comfort is key, as you know, we all know, but there's you know, it's sort of like a new play on luminosity and really creating unusual surface effects and contrasting sort of like very high shine with cotton touch fabrics. And here on the performance side, we featured Aquarius and Body Fresh in delivering high level function, but also incorporated the duo mix and trio mix in being able to create an unusual application. So it's a nice natural palette to the tones. We've pulled in indigo blue here, really classic indigo blue, to team with some of the sort of like the primary reds, but also black features here too. And this is really very much a direction that can be pulled in very different directions for the end sector. So we can see it with the sort of like higher performance levels, but we could also see it coming down through into sort of like this living wear look, sort of like an extension of athleisure. our material inspiration and textural appeal, natural again in origin, but this higher luminosity and really playing with unusual effects. So contrasting yarn use really helps this. And also jacquard effects and with the one dye process in creating something unique. So for the collection that Olga designed, we've got Aquarius incorporated into it. And it's quite interesting with the indigo blue range on the right-hand side. We've sort of like got a real mix of what Nilit offer. We've got the microfiber in there for the really soft touch. We've got the Aquarius for the performance and moisture management, and the pastel for the innovative surface effect. So you know, sort of like a very comfort aspect in this trend. And what I would say as well, it is certainly one that really has a lot of appeal to different levels of the market. Then we move on to, we had 4 activewear trends for autumn winter 18-19, and we've got 2 summer, sorry, 2 intimate apparel trends for the season 2. Again, this is just a mood we're feeling, and it can sort of like spin off into different directions depending what area you're in. It could be shaping, it could be legwear, it could be lingerie, it could be bodywear. But what we are seeing in the market is there's sort of like there's still a tendency to sporty structures, but they're coming through in a much more sexy and feminine way. So we were really trying to get a little bit sort of like, again, team up sort of like the traditional seductive aspects of the lingerie industry, but with performance. So here we incorporated Nilit Breeze, cool touch, but really interesting to use maybe in shapewear or legwear, you know, where you've got those high compression garments, very, you know, sort of like lightweight, but very fitting. So having that comfort aspect there is an important element. And with carte blanche, I mean, you know, it is a blank canvas. It's about sort of like layering up techniques within garments. We're seeing more clean cut fabrics. We're seeing more salvage fabrics feature here, but always with a, you know, very sensual second skin delivery. So these are some of our inspirations on this, and, you know, sort of like surfaces that catch the light, playing with delustering effects, and, you know, sort of like having a bright base and taking it down. Also, we're going to see elements of noble fibers being teamed with Nilit as well, and creating a luxury touch. So we incorporated cashmere and silk in this area, but really quite sort of like eye-catching and decorative in its formation. So this was this is the garment that was actually one of the samples, and when you look at it, it's really beautiful to see. It's focused on a range of shaping in having more detail in there, and again, this is on the seamless side, but hopefully ideas for cut and sew come through. We're really looking at sort of like playing with opaque and transparent aspects as well within a garment, and not just on the seamless, but in cut and sew as well. You know, bonding fabrics together and creating contrasting effects. So it's really sort of like this attitude, I think, is very much about a more glamorous approach. So, you know, we're seeing much brighter surfaces, but also really an enhanced sensuality, especially with super microfiber there as well from Nilit. So added performance also comes in. So we've got the Breeze and the Body Fresh as well for antibacterial properties. But the shapewear market, we would really sort of like trying to suggest something a little bit more decorative, and also lightweight, comfortable, and high performance. And then our final trend is treasure seekers. And this was really about sort of like taking bases up to a new level, looking at modern patinas and, you know, really interesting sort of like shimmers and molten effects. And with our palette here, we added in copper and old gold just to accentuate it. Black's strong in this sector, but we're going much lighter in weight, and we're also pursuing this enhanced transparency, but at the same time with a really bright surface effect as well. So this is really sort of like quite resplendent in its delivery. It's also sort of like for the consumer as well. When they're in store, it catches their eye when they see something bright or, you know, beautiful sitting there. It's sort of like this treasure seeker approach. So we were really looking to add this sort of like very sort of like opulent detail and aspects, and I know through the through Nilit's technical team, they interpreted this in some really great samples through the textured side and everything. And we have, this was the main illustration that was sampled up, and it was really interesting because it's actually black diamond. And black diamond doesn't have to just be used as black, but it can be worked with a contrasting colored yarns and creating some really innovative surface effects. So really it's sort of like attractive to the consumer. So the pieces here, again on the seamless sector, but can translate through to the cut and sew sector for intimate apparel. We're looking at sort of like, again, working with the sheer and textured effects. We're looking also for a much sort of like a brighter opulence. And I think the sort of like the collection on the right really highlights that as well, with the black diamond, especially teamed with super microfiber. So you're getting this really great optical aspect that you can play with. And you know, we've played here with the blue and with the sort of like burgundy in and teaming it with super microfiber, so you're getting that really sensual touch. So that's basically the trend developments that we developed for fall winter 18-19. And I hope they're giving you some inspiration on how you want to proceed further with your collections. And the PDF of this is available from Dina at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
That's great, Louisa. Thank you so very much. So audience, please do go ahead and use your question or your chat function to ask Louisa any questions that you might have based on this. Louisa, we do have a few. First of all, can you quickly comment, it looks like a lot of the garments that were shown in the presentation, most of them were seamless. Can you just comment as to why you chose seamless?
Basically, we chose seamless because we've got a very strong technical team in this area, and it was a very good way of showing the yarns themselves, but these yarns can be translated into other sectors of the industry. So we're looking to develop further for the next trend book a much more detailed cut and sew area, and also you know, sort of like for the men's and women's wear market. So it's something that Nilit's very good at on the seamless side, but we'll definitely be going to expand in the area. But apart from the collections, the inspiration images and text and color palettes do incorporate cut and sew as well. So it's really just sort of like to give a flavor of the season, and how you can pull information from there. And then from our side of things, for this season, we did just do the focus on how you could incorporate it into the seamless sector.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Folks, I should have said this at the beginning. Yes, everyone will be getting a copy of this presentation, as well as a link to the recording in case you wanted to share it with some of your colleagues. Can we talk about samples, Louisa? Some of the folks are wondering whether or not it's possible to see actual samples of some of the work that you're showing.
Yes, the samples are on show at major shows, but I do believe as well there's quite a few pieces of the samples made up. So these were shown at ISPO, they were shown at Performance Days just recently, and I'm not sure where Nilit's next shows are, but I do know a lot of the offices globally have the samples, so I think it'd be best for anybody interested to contact the office directly.
And a great follow-up on that. Yep, thanks, Luisa. So what I'll do is I'll also copy the folks here from Nilit America on the email that I'm sending out to the whole audience, so everyone will have a person to follow up with if they'd like to see some samples. So I also have a question about whether or not there is photography instead of just the really wonderful illustrations. Do you know if there have been photographs of the garments done that you talked about in the presentation?
I don't know. I mean, I have some just general ones taken from shows, but I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Nilit's marketing team on that front. I'm not sure if they've had them taken on models or mannequins or anything like that. But I would add, I mean, I saw the full collection last month, and not just to touch it and just see how these different yarns work. It's really fantastic.
Right. So in the email that everyone will get, you definitely will have someone to follow up with if you're interested in samples or further information on any of this. Lisa, we have some questions. I don't know, it sort of maybe takes you a little bit beyond this presentation, but you touched on the far infrared product, and you talked about health and wellness. I think the question here, and I'm interpreting, so folks, if I get it wrong, please just follow up with me and tell me I didn't do a great job and tell me how to redo it. But can you speak to that trend, sort of the health and wellness trend in particular? You spoke with it very well in terms of activewear, but can you just speak to what other categories potentially that health and wellness trend can translate to for apparel?
Sure. What we're seeing is basically, as I sort of like mentioned, sort of like the collections we just showed as sort of like really sort of like pure activewear in a way, but they can be translated into these other markets. We're seeing a big push in living wear, which is sort of like athleisure. It's sort of like a much more, I would say it's more sort of like fashion related. So it's not fashion related, sort of like functional related. It's sort of like we're terming it living wear, and it's where you're having added function here. We're finding that through our research as well, there's a lot of reports out at the moment. There's a big push in really getting people globally moving, and it doesn't actually have to be high level activity. It can just be a 30-minute walk a day. So we're looking into sort of like new developments with, sort of like casual wear or work wear. You could sort of like cycle to work in, but still wear it through the day. So you need these sort of like performance aspects that the activewear sector has known about all along, crossing over into the apparel sector. So what I would say is that the consumer is really very sort of like aware of what is available. And so we want to sort of like see this crossover into this area. And even with the likes of Breeze, Nilit Breeze, we're seeing, we could develop that coming through into wovens for, a comfort aspect. We could see it also feature in, with the heat yarn as well for the winter, going lighter weight but having this higher performance. So I think, there's a real sort of like the whole apparel sector and this sort of like getting added functionality from your garments is really key to the consumer.
Great, Lisa. This is another one that's going to take you a little bit beyond the presentation. There has been a consumer dynamic trend, certainly here in the States. I'm not sure about Europe, but there has been a consumer dynamic that is more focused on safety. Do you see that trend at all coming forward in the work that you are doing?
Yeah, we have noticed that in particular, a couple of areas. The first one is sort of like the high tenacity yarn. So with, we're looking at Cordura here, but we're seeing sort of like new developments in this area, teaming up with, say, Nilit in an actual fabric, and getting a much softer finish and, sort of like really comfort fit. So we're noticing that in denim in particular, sort of like getting much more rigid denim, but soft hand. On a safety element as well, we're seeing high compression, high performance fabrics. So that, these have really got like super compression. So it'd be a combination of Nilit with a high percentage of spandex in there, in sort of like a knit that will embrace the body, in body mapping as well, and the seamless sector, and also the curtain sew in sort of like strategically placing different performance in different areas. And then the other aspect I've seen as well is sort of like, especially coming through in trims, is a big push on reflectivity. And reflective technology, and we're seeing this come through in children's wear through to men's and women's. Just having something, as a final finish or trim or even a brand name, just in this sort of like reflective aspect and this safety aspect there. So sort of like those areas, yeah, there's definitely a push on sort of like a safety aspect, and it's not just for high level sports, it's really running right through the, sort of like the apparel chain.
Interesting. Okay, thanks, Lisa. Do you know if Nilit Eco used in any of the designs or samples, and was Nilit Eco used in any of the designs or samples, and were the noble or elevated materials knit within garments?
The Eco wasn't used in any of the actual final samples, but it was suggested through there because sustainability is a really big trend. It's really the way forward with the textile industry. But yes, we were sort of like suggesting, our job is really sort of like to come up with ideas, to get everybody thinking. We're not sort of like saying this is what you have to do. But yes, we would look at sort of like developing within a knit blend, like a single jersey with Nilit products, Nilit Eco, and we could use sort of like the cashmere and silk. Also in the legwear sector, we're seeing a big push for luxury, rich, sort of like luxe products, but they still have to have the performance element in there. So a lot of blending going on to get the right finish and fit for the consumer.
Really great, thank you. Do you see black diamond with super microfiber working in hosiery?
I don't see why not. I think one of the illustrations we've got in the collection was really interesting in the way it's sort of like a barre effect in doing that. But, sort of like I do think on the legwear side, there has to be sort of like this treasure seeker effect and, glistening coming through for the season. And also for sort of like sneaker sales are really, everybody's into Converse, so, sneakers. So the liners as well, going a little bit more luxury. So there's no reason why, you can't play around and create something like that. But the super microfiber as well, this real, I mean, a lot of the thing that consumers do, as they walk into store, something catches their eye, they touch it. So with the super microfiber, you're really getting this sensual touch as well. So yeah, I think for intimate apparel and also going into hosiery, it's sort of like we need a little bit of sort of like jazzed up look, sort of like a little bit of extra shine, and sort of like having a little this opulence as well.
Okay, I have one last one on the list here, folks. So if you have more, please do go ahead and type them in. We have a little bit more time here on our calendars, so go ahead and please feel free to type in more questions. Louisa, this is another larger trend in consumer dynamics that our audience is wondering whether or not you have a perspective on, and that is, I'm trying to interpret this question properly, the notion of social impact and the fact that consumers today have an interest in creating positive social change. And that is a much larger consumer dynamic. Do you see this at all coming from your perspective, and will we be seeing anything in the future from you using this type of insight?
Yeah, I think so. We're currently working on the next trend book, and we're really seeing sort of like, the consumer really does have control. There's an awful lot of things happening in the way brands have to conduct themselves. Social media has had a massive impact on this, and we're seeing, they're really being pressured into being much more sustainable. And that's not to say we're going to be all in eco, sort of like cotton fabrics and, performance. We're noticing right through the textile chain that everybody's kind of cleaning up their act. There's a much cleaner technology here. I mentioned some of the Nilit products in that only require one dye bath, reduction of water in the textile process, but you get an innovative final result in different colorways and everything. And that's really important in reducing your water footprint. This whole pressure has come in and it has come to the brands from the consumers, and purely through, that they can tweet or what, sort of like Facebook within seconds. And, if there's an issue going on, that they really have a problem brand. So they are really reacting at the same time, right from the fiber level up. We're all also reacting to this and creating a much more efficient ingredients in creating a sort of like, cleaner technology and cleaner final products. The other aspect would also be highlighting further on the sort of like the social side with consumers. Consumers are changing in that they are decluttering. They have a lot of computers, iPhones, smartphones, and they're really decluttering their lives and embracing healthier lifestyles or experiences. So there's a lot more travel happening. So again, another area that our trends here could influence is travel wear, where you've got a performance factor as well. There's a lot more sort of like sports activities going on, but this all links down to social media again, because there's much higher kudos sharing an activity or an experience you've done than sort of like, sharing you've bought the latest, phone when you've already got 3 that work perfectly well. So, sort of like, but there seems to be an about turn that, the consumers really sort of like controlling how the market needs to react, how the textile and apparel market needs to react.
Great. And we do have a couple more, Lisa, if you don't mind hanging on. And folks, as a reminder, we're just hitting the hour here, and we will absolutely be sending you this recording if you need to log off. And again, so folks, I'm sorry if I don't get this exactly right, but as the Duell fiber addresses social and eco-market trends, can you speak to the single dye process or environmental aspect?
Sorry, how do you mean?
Yep. So sorry, Kathy. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best there, but if you can just make that a little bit more clear for me, I'm sorry. I can't get that right for you. Lisa, let's move on to the next question. We'll see if we can get clarity on that. What are the new products coming in the near future? Specifically, are there any hydrophobic nylon yarns inherent in the polymer with zero moisture regain in the pipeline?
That's not my area, I'm afraid. I wouldn't be able to answer that. One of the technical team would be able to answer that.
Okay, so that will be something that we can follow up with when you get
yeah,
the email.
Definitely.
Right. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So folks, you will get an email from me, and yeah, sorry about that, guys. I couldn't make that clear, but you'll get an email from me with a link to the recording and a copy of this presentation. I'll also copy the folks from Nilit America so they can follow up with you on any samples or incremental information that you need on this. So you'll be able to have someone to go to at the end of this with any questions or concerns or needs that you might have. Louisa, I really must thank you. You did very, very well. It was just tremendous, and we all were scrambling a little bit with the technical delay at the beginning, but you sure did pull that off nicely. So thank you. Very, very well done. Audience, thank you. And again, look for our email after this, and we will look forward to seeing everyone on our next webinar.
Thank you.